What an eventful day.
Wow, Cole. I thought something was going on. Like the amount of like interesting tweets. I was not expecting that. That was truly a surprise gift, Cole, on this day that I forgot was a special day in off season.
Yeah. I don't know. When we lined up this interview, I honestly forgot that free agency show was today.
Yeah.
So
Me
I was
too.
just like, yeah,
Well,
you know what? We should talk to Joseph because we haven't talked to him in a while and he's awesome.
yeah,
And then look at us
yeah,
now.
yeah. And now our list of questions looks like we're really out of touch. Like,
It sure
oh, you
does.
guys just don't care about this stuff. Um, I will say this: you can excuse us as 100 Thieves fans for expecting this would be a quiet day in the Twitter sphere. You know, like everybody was sort of expecting that it would be. I thought we'd get the roster reveal and it would be awesome. That was my hope because we talked about what we wanted for the next season. And it was basically, could we just please do that again?
Yeah.
And it seems like that would be a strong bet for us. So yeah, all the other stuff is just icing on top, man. And look, this team just doesn't quit. Like they are constantly on the move. And it's a lot more exciting for us today than I think even I'd hoped it might be.
Yeah. Well, before we jump in, we should mention, by the way, that we are, of course, powered by Reapered Energy Fuel, the only good energy drink in the world. If you don't drink
right.
Reapered, change your ways. That's the new
Mistakes.
meta for that quote, since we're a family friendly show.
That's right.
And then also shout out to Elgato for being our lighting and capture provider and making us look beautiful, especially Jordan. Look at how well groomed his beard is, and now you can see him because of all the pixels available to convey that via his face cam. Look at that.
We're about to rename this the beard cam, Cole.
Yeah.
Elgato beard cam.
Elgato beard cam. We should just put a close up of it. Oh man. Anyway, so without further ado, look, today's a special show because we've got one of the OGs with us. One of the most of OGs when it comes to 100 Thieves. We're super excited to have him back. So let's bring up Joseph, JungleJuice, Jang.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Good. I'm so excited to be back. I mean, I've been following you guys since day one, like with Jackson, and it's such a pleasure to be back here, especially after we won North America. You know, it's such a gift.
Jackson, R.I.P. though. Oh man.
Oh, he's not.
I know he's not. He hasn't left this mortal existence, but I'm just saying.
But now, Joseph, you have, as so far as OGs go, I think you just moved up the peg one, which is moving on to his next adventure, right?
Yeah, pretty big shoes to fill, but yeah, it's sad to see him go. But he's gonna do great things. So
yeah,
not too worried about him.
He'll still be in the DMs as a fan, rooting you guys on. I'm sure. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's been a long time. I think we're trying to remember the exact time that we'd had you on last, and a couple things have happened since then. Like several, a banner, taking down EDG, just small things like that. Trips back to World. So I imagine that like if we were to go back in time and talk to you about like what your wish list is, you probably checked a lot of those things. I gotta know, right?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Which doesn't mean that there's no more left on there, but it's got to feel good right now at this point in time to be kind of cruising with an off season with a lot of hectic stuff going on.
Yeah,
and to just be able to say like, all right, here's the plan. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna run it back, right?
Yeah. I think you guys tweeted it, but it's hilarious because all these other organizations are going through hellfire trying to figure out what to do in this free market.
Yeah.
And we're kind of just coasting.
Talk that talk.
We know exactly what we're doing in LCS, and we're mostly focused on making sure our pipelines for Academy and Amateur is going to help us continue our success in LCS. So yeah, we've been cruising, and it's honestly awesome.
Yeah. That's hard-earned cruise at this point. Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of put a bookmark in the talk about the current roster and save that a bit. First of all, we understand this is not like the official 100T press conference about the roster. So, but we will, we'll get into it a little bit, but we wanted to talk about some of the stuff from this past year too. Obviously the best year for our org, the most memorable, and there's lots of questions. I don't know. It's like, I guess one of the things at the top of my mind is just I want to know how you guys are feeling about your Worlds run because, we joked before Worlds even started. It's like remember what happened in 2018. The two finalists were in our group. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
what were we supposed to do? And then in this one, this year we got the world champion plus someone who could have easily made it into Worlds and maybe could have even taken the title in T1.
hmm
So having gone into that group, you took a game off of the world champions. Like, how did their successes, T1 and EDGs, affect how you guys are feeling about your own Worlds performance?
So I think this situation is slightly different from the last time we went to Worlds. Obviously that first Worlds year, there was a lot of chaos. There was like the AD carry swap. There was a lot of internal conflict going on. So in terms of our expectations, it was kind of just like be the best version of ourselves. But realistically, those opponents were incredibly difficult. Whereas I think this year we had a lot of carry power on our roster, and I think we had like very realistic expectations about what we could achieve. And I asked all the players like, how did it feel winning an ALCS? And they were like, we didn't even feel it. It was like such a quick 3-0. And they always say like the losses hurt more than the wins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think even though they took a game off EDG, knowing that, if they played better or if any individual stepped up slightly more in any of those best of ones, that we could have made it out of groups, I think that'll always like have its place.
Hmm.
And obviously taking a game off the world champions is super surreal, but I think that's like the bigger sentiment that most of the players will carry on from last year.
Can I just make a quick correction though? You said taking a game off the world champion. I mean, you ripped it away and stomped on him as you did. I just want to point that out and make that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to draw another parallel here too, because you listen to the players who are on Golden Guardians talk about their playoffs experience on Golden Guardians and how it
Mhm.
really drove them to play at a different level when they were back at it, right? So we'll see what happens if we get back to Worlds, which I fully expect we will. But you've got to imagine that these same, like, that's the mentality they have, and you can see they just showed up with an absolute, they had a vision and a mission in the LCS playoffs, and it took them all the way to a 3-0 for the banner. So yeah, it sucks to have the what could have been, but if it functions in the same way as the past, playoffs experience, it's probably not the worst thing to have going into 2022. We talked about that a lot. You mentioned just like if any one of the players stepped up more. As fans, of course, we wondered about that too. Like, were there moments where we could have done anything differently? Was there anything that, from a player coaching staff perspective, and the thing that I think we picked up on is like the EDG game being last in our Worlds, our career for this last year, that was definitely our strongest game. So did you see that it was kind of like a ramping up where we just felt more comfortable, or would you attribute the like players not being able to step up in the way that they wanted to? Would you attribute that to anything?
Looking back at our playoffs, I don't think we were playing at like a North American level. Like if you look at some of our like early game dives and how well we were executing, especially against our series against TL, there was like a very, very like it was a very high level of play. So to go from that, I think the biggest issue was like how much lack of practice we had. There was like a lot of visa issues, so
Right.
Our ability to kind of keep that chemistry going suffered a little bit. So I don't think we showed what we were capable of as a team.
Yeah.
So I think that was like,
as well, right?
yeah. So I think that was the biggest detrimenting factor of like why we didn't see that same level of success
straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I would attribute most of it to.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump into you. I was just gonna say, what about the so like making it to Worlds grants you this like huge extra amount of time to play, right? It's like so much more practice. You're queuing up in a different region with a stronger player base. You're as a team more though. You got, obviously you guys had visa stuff going on that interrupted that a little bit, but still you're coming out of Worlds with much more time being together as a team. I think that's worth mentioning because this team came together in one split, with the addition of Abadaga. Like it coalesced very, very quickly. So when you add another, I don't know, what is it? Like, do you get like a month and a half of extra playing time? Like, do you think that they're going to be stepping up, or do you think the offseason will kind of like still make everybody rusty?
I think definitely rusty.
Yeah.
I talked to Vic a little bit about this, but World is like a super cool experience for a lot of the players because they get to go to like a competition where they get to test their own skill level and see where they rank against other world-class players. So there's going to be a lot of like individual takeaways for these players after experiencing Worlds. But every time there's a break, like it takes time to rebuild that chemistry, rebuild the systems that you created with your teammates. So I think a lot of the individual takeaways, it'll be super good for the players, and those will be things that they carry on for the rest of the careers. But there's definitely going to be rust during this break and before we hop into 2022.
I've always just wondered about that because I don't know. It seems like there's a propensity for some teams to like actually come back and look just worse, right? Like we've seen it time and time again where it's like after, like even C9 the year they did really well, when they came back into the LCS at first, it was like a little rocky, you know, and teams that like come off of MSI or something, they'll come back and look really like out of sorts. So you know, I've just always been curious about that. I just feel like keeping the roster the same for this upcoming year, more or less, and we can talk about tenacity later. That'll just, you know, it's just you're not rebuilding anything. It's kind of just getting familiar with what you had, you know, when you were back then. So that makes me super excited as a fan.
Yeah. And especially given how, like I said, how we performed our playoffs, like I think all the players are very well aware of like what our ceiling can be, and it's only a matter of time that we hit that again and hopefully like push that higher even more so next year.
Yeah. It was interesting when you brought up playing at an NA level, right? Earlier when you were talking about like the tower dive plays and everything. And Jordan, I know you had some thoughts about like, you know, the NA as a region and how that factors into Worlds.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've been watching since season 8, I guess it was, basically as soon as we got in. So every year we're pretty used to this tradition of like, you know, you have Worlds, it's a huge celebration, everybody loves League, and then it ends, and NA fans immediately start the doom and gloom, like, what are we gonna do? They're crying on Hotline League. So I didn't pick up on that as much this year, and I'm interested for your perspective of if you feel like, is that because we're actually making meaningful improvement that you see, or, and it could be some, you know, some combination of these two, or is it just that fans will always have kind of this, you know, whatever is top of mind kind of knee-jerk reaction? It's the servers, it's the player base, it's whatever, yada yada, you know, blaming a lot of things that we have no control over essentially as fans. So I guess interested for your perspective on that. Does it, you talked about us playing at a level, like Cole said, kind of higher than NA standards typically are. Do you think that the region is continuing to make progress where we should expect to see this type of, you know, I think everybody agree we had a pretty strong showing at Worlds this year as a region. Do you expect to see more of that? Or, and I guess, you know, maybe I'll give my own perspective here. We have a lot of changes happening in the offseason. So I'm sure that will kind of throw some things out of whack a little bit, just so when it comes to being able to predict how teams are going to perform.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like role players in NA that can basically do their jobs very, very well within their respective roles. But once they get to a Worlds level, there's a lot of like skill gap. And when like multiple players are getting skill gapped at that level, the teams kind of fall apart. And the systems that worked in North America no longer work. I think the rosters we sent this year had a lot less of those fundamental flaws. Like I look at our roster, I look at TL's roster, I look at C9's roster, and I think it just has a lot of carry potential and not too many glaring weaknesses that teams can just immediately like topple the teams over with. So I do think this was like a pretty decent year for North America. I know obviously there's like complaints about North America not making enough groups every year. Like two things are fundamentally true. I think the first thing is just sheer number of players. Like China is always just going to have more number of players playing solo queue. So that means more players coming out of their amateur and academy ecosystem. So I think we made really good strides this year, like I think with Proving Grounds, and you see a lot of LCS organizations too, kind of accepting these changes and being more willing to feel these rookies. Like there's rumors about like EG and their starters, and there's a lot of other rookies starting in the LCS potentially next year. And I think as long as the mindset is we want to feel the best players possible, whether that's a superstar import from another region or players that we've grown in our own ecosystem, I think we're headed in the right direction. But it'll still take a lot of work just because there are like these roadblocks that other regions have clear advantages over North America. So I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction that'll happen every year, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna have to keep working until we prove them wrong.
I guess and in some ways it adds even more legitimacy to the fact that we have managed to remain competitive, right? Like we're overcoming a lot of those things that are innate advantages just to, player size, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think it, it makes it that much more important to find the right players who can succeed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 10 players coming out every year who could compete on a world's caliber roster versus one, it means you have to look for that one much harder.
Yeah.
And that it's not a direct bridge to the tenacity topic, but that's what I'm getting at here. I think you guys have done a really great job of, I mean, it's like, is it even 2 years since we said, introducing tenacity to 100x? Like it's pretty crazy how quickly that's gone.
Yeah.
So but I think that's what it takes, right? If you hope to be successful long term, you're gonna have to find those players.
Yeah, I think organizations really just have to put the work in. Like when we scouted Tenacity, Kenvi, and some of these other really, really powerful star prospects that exist today, they were not good, Like I remember when Tenacity had like 200 Twitter followers, no one knew who he was. He was just a solo queue player, and his play wasn't even that great. But if you put the work in and you can kind of see their trajectory and their growth in like a pipeline that's like well structured, it makes it really easy for these players to take step-by-step improvements in their play to eventually get to the LCS level. I think a lot of orgs aren't willing to put that effort in from the beginning, and they kind of throw these players into these environments where they're forced to play at a higher level than they're used to. Right. So a lot of their careers kind of get really fumbled, and I don't think we've done the best job in the past either, but we're kind of trying to constantly reflect and make sure that the trajectory and that pipeline is getting better every year. So we're really glad to see that, the work that we've put in is kind of surfacing at the LCS level now.
Yeah. And that's, I think I remember, and Cole and I spent a lot of time talking about this, calls for people for us to play Tenacity and Kenvi at Worlds to get them the experience. And at the time, Cole and I said, I can't really think of a quicker way to like torpedo someone's self-confidence, right? Like pull them into the group with these two teams who were, one was a game away from finals, the other was they won it. So that's not really where you want to make your professional debut. That's not it.
Yeah.
So, but I get it. I get why people think like, oh, it's good experience, but you really got to kind of be intentional about how you put people into those situations. So, we applauded you all for what you said, being more careful with these guys and building them up slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, we're just gonna. I know we're kind of inching towards the direction of talking about roster because we're all so excited about that. So sorry, let me just pump the brakes on that for just a second. Oh, it looks like we lost Jordan finally. We'll put up the other Jordan since his internet's really chalked right now. So I'll get other Jordan right there. He's gonna restart.
Great picture.
Yeah, I was thinking like this could be the Jordan NFT, but honestly, the pixelated version of him looked like the Jordan NFT anyway. NFT. Are you back?
I'm back. I think I'm back. We'll see I got this handy new face cam, and then my internet provider, Xfinity, I'll name names, decided that I can only upload at like 32 kbps. So
all right, cool. We got you back.
We'll see.
All right. One final question on Worlds, Joseph. I'll put you on the spot, man. So, Upcomer ranked you guys 8th in the world in an infamous Twitter post. Earlier on in the season. Now, being through Worlds, seeing what happened, where do you rank yourselves in the world?
Oh man, that's such a tough question.
And why first?
Just because. Okay, so why first? It's because if I if I have to like objectively rank the teams, like I think Dom 1 is the best team in the world. But the thing with like best of 5, best of 3s, best of 1s is, who is better on that day, right? Like you look at EDG, they played 3 best of 5s. They were all 5-game series, all incredibly close. So, and honestly, it could have even been T1 that won that championship, right? In an imaginary world where we make it out of groups, like, that like reality is also very different. So, it's not this thing where these teams are playing against each other 100 times, and how many times is this person winning or team winning a best of 5 out of those 100 times. It's who is the better team on that day.
Yeah.
So kind of hard to rank there, but I do think we were strong, and I'm sure the players could wish they could rewind and show a better version of themselves, but I still think they're relatively proud of like what they've accomplished this year, because it was definitely, we definitely surpassed our own expectations, I think.
Yeah, I was saying, my position on it was, I don't even care how we do, because you just kind of need a group to get there and be there and learn what it is first before, you're really able to strike out and capitalize. Like I always think of, I do a ton of traditional sports analogies because that's where I come from, right? But you see the teams that are like kind of like the upset favorite teams in the March Madness tournament, and it's like the year one, it's like, oh, actually you got to watch out for Wichita State, and they maybe make it first or second round, and then they get knocked out, but then the next year they're like sick, and it's like the same group of dudes and no one left, and so that's kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen. I think Upcomer rated us too low, though. Let me just say that. So let's shift gears then. Talking about the split from this year, one of the biggest changes obviously was Reapered coming in. So Reapered Abadaga was huge news. I assume Reapered was a very different presence on the team because he's someone who sat out basically for a little while, not coaching. And he had a good track record of international success, and getting him onto the squad, a very big deal for fans. What have you learned from like the Reapered experience? And he seems like kind of like a mystical guy sometimes. Like his presence he has the aura that you can see. Like what's it like working with him? How does he do something differently, than any of the previous coaches? Like what have you noticed and learned?
So I've worked with a lot of head coaches on Art of Thieves, and each one has taught me a lot. I think Tony was by far the most systematic and structured one. And I think a coach's job is to diagnose the problem properly and choose from like kind of the various solutions to see what's going to give you the biggest benefit. Reaper's strength is that no matter how big the problem seems, he's able to just make the solution super simple. So I think the first time I noticed it was with drafts. Like we ran Karma 3 games in a row, and the entire community was like, why did we import a star player from Europe to have this guy play a supportive mid laner 3 games in a row? Where does that conviction come from, right? Like, who is this guy? Why is he doing this with our roster? He just has a really, really quick grasp on what champions are strong, what drafts are strong, and he's able to identify faster than most of the head coaches that I've worked with. So obviously, you're not going to draft the best draft 100 times throughout the entire year, but I would say 90% of the time we felt like we got exactly the draft that we wanted, and our read on the meta was incredibly good. So I think that's his first strength. And his second strength is that when it comes to working with players, he also makes their problems seem incredibly easy to fix. So I think Closer was a player that underperformed in spring. And I know Closer praises Reaper a lot on this, that he completely changed the way he looked at the game. But Reaper was very able to tell that like Closer's play was a little too closed and too systematic to a flaw, that he wasn't really able to play how he wanted. And after like talking to Closer, we got to really see him like kind of be in his comfort zone, be willing to do a lot more things that weren't so like pre-planned. And yeah, we got to see like the best version of Closer in summer. So I think being able to unlock these players really, really in a short amount of time and having a really quick read on meta and champion strengths is probably like the biggest strengths of Reapers that kind of make him stand apart from the other coaches I've worked with.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because he came in, like this wasn't his roster, right? I think a lot of coaches, they say, let's get this player from here, pick this piece up. So he inherited, 4/5 of the starting roster. Did he come in with a sense for what, like, did he have that sense on closer from day one? Or is that something that kind of grew as he spent more time with the players? Like, did he just roll in kind of with an idea of how this should work for this roster?
I think he identified the closer thing within like a week. He's like, yo, this player is really good, but I don't know why he's playing like this. Like, he's playing so selflessly. He's like always playing for the team. Like, where's like my Chad, like King crowd closer? Where is he? And he identified it super quickly. So,
and then then Diego came out and he was like, oh yes. Oh,
yeah, exactly. So
yeah, carry closer is that's a lot of fun. And just to see him play Viego at Worlds and have it still be effective, I was like, all right, this dude is top of the heap when it comes to Viego. That's his champ, man.
Yeah, we're gonna be seeing a lot. So just I'm working in the background on like the top plays from 100 Thieves LCS video that we do every year. We're gonna be seeing a lot of closer for sure on that. But kind of on the flip side of the spectrum, closer being someone whose problem was fixed really quick. I felt personally, I think Jordan agrees with me, that Ssumday kind of had a different arc through the season because, really towards, I don't know, maybe the second half of the regular split before playoffs started, we were starting to wonder, it's like, he just doesn't look like himself. It didn't always look like he fit in and everything. Even though we knew what he's capable of from having him on the team for so long. We talked about how you're one of the OGs of OGs, so is Ssumday, right? The only player who's been with us the whole time. What are your thoughts in general on his arc throughout the season? And honestly, I thought like he really pulled it back during like playoffs and Worlds too. I mean, I know that we went 3-3, but I felt like, other than maybe some times he should have pressed R on Malphite, he really had a good solid performance at Worlds. So what are your thoughts on that? Am I reading it wrong, or what do you think is going on?
So Ssumday's been in our organization for a really long time, and the roster we filled this year, it was basically like his hopes and wishes for such a long time. And he finally had like other like star players in the league that he got to play with. And I know last year we like completely just played through like top lane all the time, and he was like one of our primary carries. And this year we had other star players in the teams that we could kind of play through. So I think what a lot of fans don't understand is like he did a lot of carrying behind the scenes. He's by far one of the most knowledgeable players on the team. And he was kind of willing to take on those burdens in a different manner this year. And again, attributing this to Reapered, he kind of recognized this, that like Ssumday's confidence and his ability to like trust his own play. So we experimented and we played more through top, and that really built his confidence up for playoffs. And I think that's why we saw a resurgence in his play. But absolutely love the guy. He's willing to just tank everything. And I think you saw how emotional his interview was.
Yes, goodness.
He really takes all of that criticism to heart. He's incredibly hardworking.
I would be telling him to stay off social media all the time. Just never go on. Just never read it.
Yeah, but I mean, it honestly fuels him, and I think it's sadly enough one of the reasons why I know he like tried extra hard to like prove everyone wrong. So I'm super happy about his arc. I do think he struggled a lot this year, but he made really good strides towards the end. So super happy for the guy.
Yeah.
He ended on a very, very high note. I mean, and it's like, as somebody who is due a redemption arc, you couldn't ask for a better like stage to do it on, right? He got a championship, and then he actually had some pop off performances at Worlds against absolute top caliber opponents. So like, if you needed something to say like, yeah, still got it, there it is. Yeah,
he made Alfari delete his tweet.
That's right. Yes. Yes, I remember that. Gosh, thank you. We always keep receipts, man. Yeah, and as Casino's pointing out in chat, not only did he delete his tweet, but he went back to EU. He said, "No, I can't get it done here." All right.
Ssumday too good.
I love Ssumday so much.
It.
But that's a tricky segue, right? Because now the 2022 roster was announced today, and we know that the plan is to kind of use Tenacity as a functional sixth man on this roster.
Yeah.
So can you, again, this is not the 100 Thieves press conference, so we're not like, this isn't,
Yeah, of course.
you know, we're not looking for the official position from the org on what's going on there. But Ssumday's just later in his career, and we've got like an incredible talent bubbling under. So how are we going to see this work, do you think? Like when and just full disclosure, I hate six-man roster idea. I hate it. I love the guys, right? Like I'm super excited that we can like start getting Tenacity experience in the LCS level. I'm a fan of that concept, but I really like personally as an idiot who's maybe silver if I'm lucky in League of Legends, I like having the 5 guys always out there. So can you talk to us about kind of what you guys are thinking there and how we're going to see it play out?
Yeah, so 6-man rosters are super tricky, and we obviously try to do our research, and we're definitely not coming into thinking this like we have it solved or anything, but we know for sure that neither Tenacity or Ssumday should be playing Academy.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be boot camping to figure out like what works best for our group. And I know this is a little bit hypocritical to what I said before, where you don't want to toss players into like a level that they shouldn't play out. But I think Tenacity is someone that went through our pipeline, went through our development program, and he's definitely ready to play at that level. So I think he's the sort to be like a sponge for resources. And if he's being challenged at the top level, we think integrating him into LCS is like the best way to continue his development. So that's kind of our idea around it. Like I said, we don't think we have it solved, but we thought this was the best solution where we could like kind of utilize both of their strengths the best. Because like I said, Ssumday does have, I think, the best like knowledge overall and experience within that roster. So yeah, we'll definitely try to figure it out, and I think the bootcamp and lock in will tell us a lot about how that ends up working out.
That's what I was going to ask. So is lock-in confirmed for 2022? But that's how the season starts.
I'm not sure if it's confirmed, but to my knowledge, I think it's yeah.
I loved it. I hope it stays. I really do. I feel like Riot doesn't talk about things that far in advance usually. But that does, and I see somebody in chat saying best of 3s are really well. It's Exiems. Yeah. Best of 3s are good for 6-man. Best of 1s are harder. I mean, lock-in, it gives you some of that early, and that's one of the things I think that's the view is a benefit of that format. So yeah. I mean, look, there's risk in it, and if there wasn't, everybody would just run a 6-man roster all the time, right? If it was the surefire way to have more better players on your team than fewer, then obviously. So
can I?
We know that it'll be a challenge.
Sorry, Jordan. Can I ask a technical question then, Joseph? Like,
go ahead.
There is a day during the week, like Thursday at 7 p.m. or something, where you guys have to say your rosters going into the weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and is that like day by day, or is that here are our rosters for the entire weekend?
It's day by day.
Okay. And is it, sorry, I'm getting super technical here, but I'm just trying to understand. So is it like, on Thursday you say the Friday roster, on Friday you say the Saturday roster, or is it?
Yeah. It's like 8 p.m. On Thursday, you must submit your roster and side selection for the day after, and kind of that same process for each day.
Okay. So, because I was wondering, someone in chat, as Jordan mentioned, Exiems brought up best of 3s. You see the substitutions happen in the other leagues, right? Like it's not that uncommon. Are you guys going to be like situationally making those decisions? Because it's like, oh, well, like Tenacity's good on these kind of champs, or like Tenacity plays this certain way, but it's like you have to know that before you see the draft of the other team. So how do you guys think of that?
So I think that's something that's like Reapered and the other LCS assistant coaches will probably manage. But yeah, they ask for the roster beforehand, like who's at least starting for game 1, and then after end of each game, they ask if you want any like roster substitution. So I would say Reapered's a pretty flexible guy, and he's someone that has made 6-man rosters pretty successful, from my opinion. So I'm pretty sure he has a formula system to really make it work for us. So we're honestly not all too worried about, getting both these players working in our LCS program. So yeah, super excited. I know it's not like the traditional 5-man thing, but I think it's something that really puts us in a position to like kind of test it out.
Yeah. I will be excuse me, I will be very curious to see how it plays out. Like I said, I'm hoping I'm just totally wrong and off on my perception of what it is. But obviously I've said on the pod like a bunch, like if anybody's earned trust in this realm, like look at the job 100 Thieves has done over the past, couple of years to take it and build it back. So we got trust, man. I'm just so curious to see how it's gonna work because I have no idea. But I want my man to get the experience. And I kind of wish there was a way for Kenvi to get the experience too, but I'm just saying.
Nobody's ever tried a 7-man roster, Cole. Come on, let's not get crazy. I will echo that it's, I mean, like in some ways of a straight run back of your championship winning roster, it's understandable. It makes sense. Obviously it's,
I like
it.
And
this team, this team is continuing. It seems like that we haven't found the ceiling yet, right? So I think there's a lot of room to grow there. But to keep things really interesting, right? Like this is surely one way to do that, where we're going to have so much to watch for and just kind of keep track of. And I think Tenacity is someone who's been on 100 Thieves fans' mind for years now, and I think a lot of people are excited to see him play. So I get it; it makes sense, and I'm glad that you all have acknowledged that you've not cracked the code from day one. So we'll see how it goes. We'll have some time.
Now so it's what we're seeing lately, right? Over the past stretch is that 100 Thieves starts talent stacking at certain positions, right? You've got See, we had a bunch of guys who ended up being LCS players on the academy team in previous years, right? Thinking like Fake God and Saligo and everything, which was cool. Mm-hmm. But now we've got we've ratcheted up, to having like Luger back behind FBI. Luger, who maybe could be like top 3, top 4 LCS, and he's sitting in academy right behind. I don't know. I thought FBI and Huhi looked as good as any bot lane, at Worlds. At times they really look good. And then you've got the top lane situation. You've got certified monster Ssumday with the track record to prove it. Back behind him, you have what many people view as, one of the greatest talents available in Tenacity for like future. And same with the jungle position. You've got Closer, who he was finals MVP, am I right? NA finals MVP?
Yeah.
And he should have been. And right behind him, you've got Kenvi, who's like maybe the other pick for most promising future talent from Academy.
Yeah.
And now we hear it's been made official that General Sniper is being signed to the amateur team. So you've got this he's barely 15, is that right? He's like turned 15 this month. Rank 1 player who is on the freaking amateur team. And I'm sure there was like a bidding war to get
LP.
This guy too, right? What's going on with the talent stacking here? This is insane. How are you guys doing this? This is you, right?
So there's 2 things that I think make our jobs easy when it comes to scouting. Obviously we have to choose the right players to scout, but once we kind of determine these are the best players in these roles, in these demographics, because our organization is so widely successful, like we have really good content creators, we have the best apparel, and we have a leadership that really cares about winning, and they always express that. I think so many players like just want to play in our organization. So even if other organizations try to compete for these same players, like we basically get first pick. And that's not a luxury we used to have, but I'm very thankful we're in that position. Like we've had like really poor performance here on our 100 Thieves, but what really kept us alive was our brand. And I guess like the passion from leadership all throughout those years. So we're in a very privileged position. So yeah, I think the talent stacking, it's like, I think we're doing a much better job of identifying who these key players are going to be. And I think our pipeline is frankly just better than a lot of the other organizations. So We feel like if they come join our program, we can eventually get them to the LCS level, whether that's for our own organization or for the LCS for the other team. So I'm super excited about Sniper, and honestly super excited about our academy and other prospective talents that we're going to be announcing very shortly.
Soon, TM.
But soon TM, but
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing I think is going to happen. Amateur has been, I think Riot's done a very good job. I think Proving Grounds is awesome. Like the way they're kind of building in the amateur. I think if you get players like him in amateur, I think that the actual
Him meaning General
eyes on
Sniper?
that, yeah, are like people are gonna tune in to see how this kid does.
Yeah.
In his first competitive matches, right? I mean, I know he's done like Twitch rivals and stuff like that, but to have a team that he's playing for is going to be super exciting. So they're compounding factors here, right? Like more eyes on amateur is always a good thing. And I think the thing that is so interesting about what you said is we've always attracted high quality players, and it hasn't required us to be winning trophies in the sport that they want to play for us, right? And I think now it's almost like, who isn't going to want to sign up to play for us at this point? We've got a Gucci collab on that side. We've got, like apparel after apparel after apparel drop. And it's, so it's just, it's different on so many levels. And when John came on, it's probably been a couple of years now, it was the start of the pandemic, basically, he talked about the business model and the different pillars and stuff. So it's just, it all makes sense, right? And I think that's the beauty of it is I have to imagine it's as easy to sell a prospective player on what it means to play for this program as it is as a fan to see like the brand is strong, And I think in his reveal video, he talked about he saw Tenacity and he saw Kenvi and just what their experience was. And he's like, well, that's where I want to play. Sign me up. Let's do this. So
I think
pretty cool to see.
I do think it's pretty interesting how, especially Tenacity and what will now be General Sniper, they do have like existing brands already kind of around them, right? They have like personalities that people are familiar with. They're active on Twitter. They're funny on Twitter. Like they're known quantities, and it makes it easier to follow them because they're very memorable. And seeing that play into the equation, I think is nothing but good. I mean, in a way, like not to do too much with this thought, but again, another traditional sports analogy, like General Sniper is basically like in the LeBron James seat, right? LeBron James was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at like 15 or 16 years old, right? As the chosen one. And if there's a chosen one in NA for like a young player who's not actually there yet, it's General Sniper. And so everybody's eyes are already on this guy. He already pulls streaming numbers when he streams. He's already like a known quantity, a known personality. And now he's united with a brand that has developed that for other people, and has been a good look for other people. So I don't know, man. As a fan, it's hard to not do the whole like counting chickens before they hatch. Cause obviously, we don't know how this player is going to pan out, but it just seems like the majority of the time with these signings that are coming through on the developmental side for 100 Thieves, they're panning out in a big way. And if to speak to Jordan's point, it seemed like since the early days, so we'll scrub like the first year of 100 Thieves or whatever, but since then, always seems like people have really good things to say about being with 100 Thieves and working there, whether it's players or just like general like 100 Thieves staff, like even outside of LCS, right? And I think like that's something that has mattered, and now with General Sniper, we've got hard proof that it matters, So you've got people joining people that they want to be with, but also people joining culture that they want to be a part of. So dude, this is the catbird seat. It's pretty fun. Like I think, did you see the video that Tim from Oracle's Elixir did on General Sniper?
I don't think so, but I saw his one today.
The one that came out today is what I was talking about. He made a quick video like as soon as they they leaked that or whatever. It was confirmed shortly after, but I think he called it, what was it? Is like the most important offseason signing of LCS was General Sniper. Isn't that wild? Like Dang, it's not even for our academy team that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's just like there's other regions just with a wealth of players. So I think talents like General Sniper might be a little bit more common in those regions. But for our regions to have a challenger player this young and display like that level of skill at such an age, it makes us really excited to have him go through our program and like rival the success of other, I guess, graduates of the program who, are now playing at the top of academy and hopefully in LCS. So yeah, we're very, very bullish on our talent developmental system, and we're really, really excited to have him on board.
Yeah. Jordan, did you have some word? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just said dang.
You're just happy.
Yeah.
How does this factor in, Joseph, with, I mean, I don't know how much you can even comment on in this regard, but how does this factor in with the fact that, like, it seems like there are a lot of players out there this offseason that are not getting picked up that you would think are getting picked up? Like, what's going on in the scene with talent? Is this like a function of money? Is this a function of like upcoming talent that people are suddenly betting on? Like, what's going on? Like, there are a lot of players, it feels like, that have not had their signing announced yet, or that are signing with like minor region teams, Reckless.
Yeah. So like I said, very openly, like our leadership's always like our number one priority is to win. Like we want to win championship, we want to bring trophies home. And I don't think a lot of the other organizations function with that same philosophy. So I think the reason you see such a disparity in the league, there's a lot of top heavy teams and a lot of bottom heavy teams. It's just the first question I think a lot of the managements ask is like, are they in a position to win this year? Right. And if you're not in a position to win this year because a lot of the other teams are stacked, does it make sense to spend money on these players if we can't make worlds? Right. So that's why I think players like Jensen and Double If you've seen a lot on Twitter about like why they might potentially not be playing in LCS. And to me, like that's absolutely crazy too. Because when you're constructing rosters, are they North American, right? Are they the top of their roles? And do they have like a big brand and marketing potential behind them? And both these players, especially Double If, like even though he has had that drama with Reginald recently, he is one of the biggest brands. He's one of the biggest brands in LCS, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So top player in his role, huge brand. He's going to be the core of your roster. It's going to be really easy to obtain other players. It's kind of sad to see them not in the LCS potentially. So I think it does make a lot of sense because if you don't have the budget or if your management doesn't believe that you can compete with the top teams and be successful this year, it also goes both ways, right? Like these players know their value. Like, do they want to join a bottom heavy team with players that that they don't necessarily respect, not getting the same competition that they think that they deserve? Is this really good for their career? So I do think it's a two-way street, and there were a lot of rumors of them trying to find these organizations to make it work for them, but ultimately it didn't work out. So I think it does make sense, but from a fan perspective, I can kind of see why you would be disappointed because having Double Lift in the LCS always make things a little bit more spicy, a little bit more interesting. So
yeah, but I kind of get it if I'm another team because it's like, yeah, I can sign all these sick players if I have the money available, but then I'm still gonna lose 100 Thieves. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a tough go about it.
Yeah.
What do you think about we'll kind of just throw this out there. I don't know if you have anything to say about this, but like with the game changes that are on the horizon for next year, do you have any thoughts on how that's going to impact like what you guys do as a team or how games will be shaped by the game changes that are going on?
I think every time there's like changes, you can always like theorize like how it's gonna make us change, but like ultimately we just need to like test out the actual game and see what it's like. I will say the dragon changes. I know a lot of like analysts go on Twitter and like say, "Right, please remove dragons," and makes the game so like formulaic, like everyone has to fight the third and fourth dragon. But I think as a viewer, I really like dragons. Like you would have these like 60, 70-minute games where like people are just turtling and just doing base races, and dragons force teams to fight and it forces action. And as a viewer, you kind of love to see that. And there's going to be different like dragon attributes, like the Chem one
Yeah.
and the Hex Tech one. So I mean, I think that just makes it more like the viewing experience is a lot more pleasurable. And then they also added mechanics for like certain objectives being worth more with like a comeback mechanic, I believe.
Oh yeah. Bounties
So
for objectives, right?
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think they're still making sure that the action is still there by keeping the dragons and adding more dragons. But I think it'll also increase like macro. Like I think G2 is really famous for being like super good at like half map and trading really aggressively, even if they're behind. I think it rewards a lot of that as well. So, outside of those two things, I just kind of have to see the items and those things in effect to see how it'll change our season. But I think largely the players and everyone else is kind of just waiting to see what the changes are like before, we just make these assumptions. But honestly, I love dragons. They make the game
Yeah.
so much more fun to
Jordan,
watch.
it sounds like I should talk to him about the Night Drake and maybe the I have Sauron champion as well. Justin, we'll have a conversation offline. Yeah.
Well, Cole, I got to say, with dragons being even more important, it's going to be really good. You're going to want to make sure you have a good jungler. And it turns out we got a pretty good one. So I think we're doing okay.
Catbird seed again. So obviously, like, we wish some of the other 100T related rumors were out there for us to kind of like float to you. We know you can't comment on stuff that's not confirmed, so we won't ask you to do that. But there's there's another rumor that's getting us excited for the next year. With this stuff that's kind of been leaked or announced for other squads, like, is there any team in particular that you're afraid of, or a team that you're really impressed by their off-season work? Any thoughts when it comes to 2022? Do you even have a challenger?
Obviously I think TL's roster is strong. Like if their supposed like roster rumors are like true, I think Alfari was a really, really strong top laner. Like pound for pound, I think he's a very strong laner but obviously there was a lot of like culture issues that he was experiencing with the team. And although like pound for pound, I think Alfari is a stronger player than Bwipo. Every EU person talks about how big of an effect Bwipo and Hylissang had on Fnatic. So, and obviously Bjergsen's coming back, and Hansama, the rumored AD carry, is one of the strongest Western AD carries in the scene. So I think they'll be a very strong contender. And I would say like EG is definitely like a dark horse. Like I think they're the other team that's doing a very good job with their development.
Every year since the rebrand, again, it's like, oh yeah, EG, man, they could do it.
Yeah.
They could do
it.
Yeah,
year, Cole.
This could be their year.
And honestly, they did pretty well this year. Like I think I applaud them a lot. I know they like tweeted us for being like an apparel org, and it's hilarious because like we ended up winning an LCS and they're still working their things out. But I do applaud them. I do think they're doing a good job, and I think they're one of the few other orgs that like are really showing by example on like how to work on the amateur and academy ecosystem. So
that's because they've got an inside person from 100 Thieves.
Yeah, Kelsey Moser. So
yeah,
I mean, I think EG and TL look relatively strong. Can't confirm TSM's roster, but I think for having lost Bjergsen, I think they're pivoting pretty well. So I don't think TSM fans should be too disappointed. And I think CLG for the first time is like actually rebuilding properly. So
because I think a lot of our guys. Yeah, rebuilding
just
properly.
Rumors.
Okay, yes, I like it. I like what you're putting down. You're a company man.
So yeah, I think a lot of these organizations are doing a much better job than previous years. But definitely, if I had to choose one of the bottom heavy teams that I think pivoted well, it would definitely be CLG. Because when you're a team that didn't perform the year before, it's very, very hard to attract talent to come play on your organization. So I would say out of like the bottom heavy teams, I think they probably will end up doing the best job if their supposed rumors for the roster are true. Yeah.
Pending rumors.
Yeah, pending rumors.
I gotta say, I don't know if I'm the only one who feels this way, but every time I hear people talk about a super team, it just makes me excited. Like it's like finally a worthy challenger. Like I don't
Oh my
want
god.
I don't want it to be
That is
where it's like
ultra cocky. I like it. I like this, Jordan.
hear me out. I want people to look at the LCS and say that is a strong league. Like I don't want it to be if they're going to be super teams, I want them to be here. And I want and my confidence is higher because we just towed off with two of the best teams in the world and it was close or it wasn't close and we won. So yeah, like I think I like was it steel sharpens steel or something like that? Like I think that it's good to have strong teams, strong players. I love seeing big names come to the LCS. I think it's always good. And I'm sure that in your seat, Joseph, it's a little bit like, yeah, okay. And also like this is gonna get interesting here. Like we've got some real challenges. But from a fan's perspective, man, I'm glad that the LCS is continuing to show new looks and that people are looking for different ways to challenge us. Because right now, we're in the top dog seat.
I mean, like speaking as a fan, there was like rumors earlier on in the season of like Fudge, Blabber, Bjergsen, Hansama with like Vulcan. Like that sounded like pretty cool. And then there was like an EJ rumor of like Impact, Inspired, Humanoid, Danny, and someone else. And I was just like, these rosters sound lit. I would love, for the level of competition to be that high.
Yeah, right.
And I don't really know what the rosters are going to be anymore, but that would have been super cool to like have these super teams. And yeah, like these are the teams that like I guess a lot of fans put their expectations on. Like if you remember the old like TSM legacy team with Bjergsen and Double Lift, if you remember that legacy team with Core and Double Lift, where TL was winning like championships split after split, like those are the kind of rosters that were like ahead of their time. And all the teams obviously today are better just because everyone gets better at the game over time. Like those rosters were definitely the best that NA could have produced in that time period. And I think hopefully we'll get to see more of that because that always makes League a lot more enjoyable to watch.
Agreed. And it was somebody in our chat at one point said, like the big three has become the big four or something to that effect.
Yeah.
It's like just because you have three teams who have historically done a lot of winning in a league doesn't mean that you can't add another team who is justifiably in that same group, right? And I think that's where it feels like the conversation has shifted. And now when you talk about a super team, right, it's like that is the super team that is going to compete with 100T, C9, TL. We'll see what TSM's up to. But like it's no longer like, oh, they're going to kick us back out of the club, right? I think we're here.
And we're here to stay. And honestly, like given like how you said like the bird seed of like how much talent we have backed up, I think we're definitely here to stay and we're gonna stay at the top. We're gonna make sure we stay at the top because we honestly have a great problem. Like our problem is that like we have so many great players that we have to figure out which ones we want to field. So I'm super excited about 100 Thieves LCS moving forward, and I think all the fans should be too. We have all the players, and I think we have the systems now to hopefully make sure we get the best out of each and every single one of them. So I'm super excited, and I think we're getting very close to cementing ourselves as like one of the top teams if we haven't already.
Yeah. Well, look, man, we have stalled as long as we can, and we didn't see any further announcements coming through. We haven't seen Mythy confirmed. We haven't seen the Academy roster dropped or anything. So I guess we're gonna have to let you off the hook here, since again we know you can't comment on those very cool things that we know are gonna happen. I'm super psyched to have Chovy in our Academy team. I know you can't talk about it yet, but when it happens, I'm super excited for that.
You think he doesn't want to play for the Lil Nas X winning LCS champions?
LCS, hold on. He's got to go through Academy first. I mean, we still have Abbedagga. Look.
Yeah, I will just say for Academy, just be very excited. It's going to be super awesome. And it's going to be to the similar degree of last year where like we're all just so proud of like being able to announce this roster. I think it's absolutely sick. So I think fans should be super excited.
You didn't need to sell us on being excited for it, but now, man, I'm going to have my phone in my hand for the next, like, I don't know, 24 hours. Hopefully you don't make us wait longer than that.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'll be very curious about Kenvy to see if he got snatched or what's going on. So we are on watch now. JungleJuice, thanks for hanging
Unnoticed.
out with us tonight, man. It's been fun to see you again. Congratulations on all your success too. You've been through all of it. You've literally been through all of it, and
Yeah.
it just I don't know. I can't imagine how it feels for you, because as a fan who's watched since the beginning, it was so great to see how this season played out, and
Yeah.
just to be in this position, man. Hats off to you. Hats off to the rest of the staff. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
what you do and making us very pleased and excited.
Yeah, honestly, I think from a lot of the staff perspective, it's just like relief, because we have like leadership that's super super invested. They're doing everything they can financially and like culturally to kind of support us, and we have a really strong fan base. And for so long, we weren't really able to deliver on the expectations, and now that we're getting kind of close to that and like finding a lot of progress in other areas, I guess we're just like proud to say that we're like playing the part that everyone expected us to.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice feeling, and hopefully we'll continue to make everyone proud. So looking forward to this, like seeing what happens like as the years come by. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you wanna put out there? Anything else you want to say before we hop off? Or did we cover it?
I love the pod, and shout out to Jackson. He's a
Yes.
homie. Like I know he's leaving, but he's one of the OGs for sure. So shout out Jackson. Shout out 100 Thieves fans, and shout out to the leadership who is always like wanting to win. Honestly, it's such a privilege to have leadership that wants to win. So it makes our job so easy.
Well, we
Nice.
appreciate everything you guys do, and it's
Yeah.
been a heck of a ride, and we know that there's more fun in store. So we will be there, right as we always have been, and it's going to be a good time. So thank you for coming on. Thanks for doing what you do, and we'll hope to have you back again before too long. Hopefully, we have more exciting stuff to talk about that we can get your perspective on soon.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Thanks,
we're
guys.
We're gonna have to hit him up. Chat. Remember, Rec League this Thursday. We'll be playing. I think we're doing League of Legends this week, right?
Fantastic.
We haven't
I like
fully
that game.
decided. Probably League of Legends. So we'll do Rec
Yeah.
League on Thursday. Watch our Twitter on Wednesday for the sign up form. If you're not already in our Discord, here's a link in chat for you to hop in there and just come be a part of our take on 100 T fandom. And again, thank you to JungleJuice for being here. Man, 2022, it's going to be another banger. We won already,
Can't wait.
guys. We
Can't
won
wait.
already. And with that, we say we love you and we miss you already.